Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi ta'ala wabarakatuh. Participant of certificate program in integrations of knowledge for human sciences. I'm Dr. Szariannie Sulaiman from Department of Sociology and Anthropology. Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alamin. Wassalatu wassalamu ala ashrafil anbiya'i wal mursalin wa ala alihi wa ashabihi ajma'in. Let us praise Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for this opportunity to meet more on sharing the knowledge on the topic that has been assigned to me. So my topic is on ethics in sociology. Okay, before I actually share the information or the content of this topic, I think it's very important for us to relate this topic with the previous lecture or with the previous topic, the research method. Okay, first it's very important for us to refresh our understanding what sociology is. Okay, sociology is the scientific study of human society and social interaction. The term scientific study refers to the method used by sociologists to study the subject matter, focusing on human interaction as well as social interaction and human society. It's not about the method that they adopt to study the subject matter, the social interaction and human society, but we also have to look at how they conduct the research itself. This is where the ethics come in to help the researcher, not only the researcher in terms of protecting the rights of the researcher as well as the rights of the subject or participant of the study. Okay, so let's move on to the next next slide. Okay, which is I think is also good if we try to refresh our understanding what ethic is. Okay, ethic come from Greek word ethos, which mean character or custom. Yeah. So ethics in Islam refers to akhlaq, plural, and qulub is the singular. So ethical actions, as ethic is the noun, okay, we need to look at what are the practical aspect, what are the behavior or action related to ethics in Islam. So there are conducts which are characterized as amal soleh. So anything that we have the good intention that we do because of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, so it's referred as an ethical action, yeah, amal soleh, good deeds. So in the Arabic term, ethics are referred to haq, truth and right. So here we can see the element of good deeds, kibir, righteousness, taqwa, pious, ma'ruf, approve, khair, goodness, qis, equity, adil, equilibrium and justice. So all these good deeds or amal soleh in Arabic terms refer to ethics or the ethical action. Okay, so now we move on to the word khuluq. Okay, is mentioned in Surah Al-Shu'ara, ayat 137, which mean tradition, as well as in Surah Al-Qalam, ayat number 4, mean a moral character. Okay, so a good deed that is practiced by the previous generation and is also reflecting a good character, okay, which is very important for all Muslims to practice. Okay. So Islamic ethics specifically, okay, is the framework of Islamic code of ethics is laid down by the central teaching of akhlaq, okay, concerning the character development. So we are emphasizing on human character development. So as a researcher, so we have to look at the character of a researcher, not only to achieve the objective of the study of his or her research, but they are being guided by the code of ethics, specifically the Islamic code of ethics. And number 2, we also have Aqidah, what they believe in, and Sharia, the law. So these are the 3 elements that build or become the foundation of the Islamic code of ethics, the akhlaq, Aqidah, and Sharia. So Islam magnifies the ultimate goal of akhlaq through the concept of observance of 2 elements. Okay, number 1, one's relationship with God or Allah, which is hablum minallah, and number 2, one's relations with human beings or hablum minannas. Okay, as I mentioned to you earlier, when we talk about Islamic ethics is to do amal soleh or good deeds. It is not about our good deeds with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, maintaining relationship with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, like performing ibadah. But we also have to observe good relation with our environment, number 1. Or number 2, with other human beings, in which here we emphasizing on hablum minan nas, our relationship with other people. Okay, why? Because in research or in sociological research, we are dealing with human being as the subject of the study. So we are obtaining data, okay, from our informant, for example. So they are human beings. They are providing an information or data that we need for our study. So therefore, our relationship with our informant must be guided by certain principle, which we call it as sociological research ethics. Yeah? So Islamic Code of Ethics necessitates individual obligation. Okay? So it's an individual obligation as well as social responsibility, which is already reflected in the earlier point I mentioned just now. So individual relation, our individual obligation, which is our obligation towards Allah Subhanahu Wa Taala, which is our accountability. And number two, our social responsibility. We are responsible towards other people in the context of research, to our informants, to our participants, to our subject of the study, and they are being founded by the ethical practices. Okay, so the Islamic Code of Ethics warrants the observance of these two relationships to secure worldly success. Okay? Because we are in this world, we are dealing with human beings, we want to protect our environment and to ensure success in this world. Okay, al-falah fil al-dunya, along with the eternal success, al-falah fil akhirah. So this could be used, okay, as one of the conceptual framework in order for us to, in order for the researcher to guide their research work. Okay, we have like Islamic Code of Ethics, Muslim researcher. So to observe the relationship with Allah Subhanahu Wa Taala, okay, hablum minallah as well as hablum minannas, and then this is where our understanding, okay, our akidah, our akhlak is reflected in our practices. How do we actually practice to ensure that we observe these two elements, our hablum minallah as well as hablum minannas? Okay, these are obtained from Kamri and Ramlan 2015. Okay, so let's move into the conceptual meanings of Islamic ethics. Akhlaq, here I refer to ethic, is also conceptualized as the science or al-ilmu that deals with the standard of right or wrong of human conduct. It's very important what is right, what is wrong when it comes to human conduct or practices, or what humans ought to do, okay, what they are supposed to do. So this is what they are supposed to do, and this is what they are not supposed to do. So in the context of research, there are the do's and the don'ts. There is a standard. Standard here means that acceptable by members of the society, because in certain contexts, when we come to the cultural context, what is acceptable in a particular society, it might not be acceptable in the other society. Or when we talk about what is right in one particular society, it might not be perceived as rightful in the other society. So therefore, in order to avoid confusion, conflict, disagreement, so we must come up with a standard right or wrong, so that to ensure the process will be performed ataupun will be done smoothly. Yeah. So the study of the ethical conduct, so in terms of ethics as the science, because the study of the ethical conduct and behavior, referring to the effort of studying moral standards and conduct to ensure that men possess the right understanding of moral behavior, the right understanding of moral behavior within the context, which is we go back to the standard of right and wrong. Because if we don't have the right understanding, we can mislead other people. Not only we have misunderstanding, but our misunderstanding can bring into misleading other people in terms of how do they conduct or perform certain practices. Number two, conceptually, akhlaq also refers to good character or good human behavior, as I already mentioned just now. Yeah. So the human character that prescribe to refrain from immoral conducts. So we know what is the boundary, what is the limit that we have. So if we know this is the good character, this is the standard of acceptable good character, so we know we should not go beyond the limit or within the limitation that we already mentioned earlier. Yes, so for example, as a Muslim, we should avoid immoral conduct, not only in terms of conducting research, but maybe in our daily life, we also should practice this good character with good intention to ensure not only we have good relation with Allah Subhanahu Wa Taala as the servant of Allah, but also good relation with other human beings. Number one, do not cheat. Okay, in any means, so we do not cheat. We should tell the truth, although it might be it might not it might not favor other people, for example, or we do not discriminate other people in terms of, it could be like gender discrimination, or maybe we also have like racial discrimination and other forms of discrimination discrimination and inequality. So we do not steal others. Steal here does not necessarily stealing their material possessions, property, but we can also talk about stealing of data. For example, when we conduct research, our research should only collect data that we want to collect. So other than that, we should not collect, because it might also be considered as it is unethical, because it can be considered as stealing others people's data. That's why data are should be protected. And not only we avoid immoral conduct, at the same time we also should enjoy virtues of honesty, compassion, sincerity, and other. And so it should, but the good should overweight the immoral conduct. So we should also highlighting, so this what we should observe, and at the same time this is what we should practice. Therefore, so the universal standards of right and wrong that prescribed by humans, what humans ought to do as taught by the Quran, so Quran as the source of reference, and demonstrated in the exemplary life, action, and words of Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. These are the two source of reference that we always refer to when we want to practice certain behavior. Okay, because number one, due to different background, different social cultural context, sometimes, as I mentioned earlier, we may have misunderstanding of others people's behavior. We thought that they are doing wrong, but actually in their own context this is something acceptable. So we need also to look at social cultural context before we actually perceive other people's behavior. Okay, so now we move on to an overview, okay, about research ethic or sociological research ethics. So we refer generally, ethics refer to what is socially acceptable. And so in Islam, we have Islamic ethic, the code of conduct. But in sociological research, we also have the concept of sociological research ethic, which refers to what is socially acceptable. What is socially acceptable? Okay, socially acceptable here, we have to take into account the context where we are going to conduct the study. Yeah, so it deals primarily with the interaction between researcher and the people they study. And so now we are focusing on the relationship with human being, hablum minan nas. That is one of the important aspect. So not only observing the interaction between researcher and the people they study, the subject, participant, or the informant, the procedure also need to be emphasized for safeguarding research participant interest. Okay, as a researcher, we also have our intention, we also have our interest, but their participation in the study also must be also taken into account. Yeah, to engage with ethical dimension, a researcher should ask the following question before he or she embark with the research process. Okay, number one, question like, what moral principle guide my research? Okay, when you have a topic that you want to study, so you have also to look at what are the moral principles that guide my research, what are the socially acceptable aspect that will guide my research, especially when you are studying informant or your sample in terms of their background are different from you. Okay, how do ethical issues influence my selection of a research problem? Because when we talk about selecting a research topic, there are several aspects that we have to look at. Says, for example, some of the topic might be sensitive topic. So there are several ethical issues that we have to deal with or we have to manage as a researcher. So how we are going to go about it? Okay, so it says, for example, you cannot just simply avoid the topic. So we still want to study the topic, but there are ways on how we are going to approach the topic. Number two. Number three, how do ethical issues affect the way I conduct my research? Okay, as a researcher, we are human being. We are also dealing with other human being as our subject. So how several ethical issues that we are already aware could affect the way you conduct your research or I conduct my research. Number four, what responsibility do I have toward my research subject? So as a researcher, again, what are your responsibility towards your research subject? Okay, your intention, your objective is to obtain the data or to collect the data. Okay, you cannot just focus on the data collection. Your aim is to have answers for your research question, but you also have your responsibility towards your research subject, which is go back to the principle maintaining relationship with other human being, good relationship. Hablum minan nas. And next, we also have what ethical issues, okay, or dilemma might come into play in deciding what research finding is published, findings are published, okay, when you obtain studies. So you have to also take into account the data, whether you can publish it or not, how you are going to address the audience, okay, of the research study, means that who is going to read your work. So how you are going to address some of the issues that might, some of the criticism, some of the issues that will go back to your research finding. Next, what will my research directly benefit those who participate in the study? So as I mentioned, so studies involve two researcher and the subject. So as a researcher, we get benefit from the study, and how our participant also will get benefit from the study. So this must be clearly addressed before we embark on our research process or project. Okay, now moving from that, by having ethical conduct, code of conduct, it helps to ensure researcher explicitly consider the needs and concerns of the people they are studying. I already mentioned just now, not about the researcher, but also the needs and concerns of the people they study. Because sometimes the researcher there are some controversial research where they overlook the needs and the concerns of the participant or the people they study. So these are considered as unethical. Okay, for the conduct of the research to take place, the basic of trust need to be established between researcher and study participant, establishing rapport. It's not simply that you want to get the data, but you have to approach your participant, your subject of the study in the most appropriate way or in the socially acceptable manner. Especially if you do not know them, definitely you do not know them. So you need to do some homework. Okay, what are among the issue, the do's, the don't, what are the cultural sensitivity or religious sensitivity. So please observe this, because we want to establish trust. We want them to accept us as they are, so that they allow us to be part of them. They will share information that we are looking for, so to ensure the smooth running of the research process. Okay, whenever research is conducted on people, the well-being of research participant must be the top priority. So the well-being of the research participant must be the top priority. Although we are being funded, so we receive grant, but that is not only the priority, but the top priority goes to the research participant. Okay, we have this ethic, as I already emphasized earlier, not only to safeguard the rights of the researcher, but also the research participant. Because participation in the study is voluntary. We cannot force them to participate in our study. They have to voluntarily participate in the study. So before you get that voluntary participation, so you have to approach them nicely or in the socially acceptable way. So then only the research question or your research questions are always of secondary importance. So these are some of the basic guideline or elements that we have to look into before embark on the research process. Okay, moving from that, so there are several research ethic principles. Okay, number one, respect for person. So how a researcher can respect the person, or here refer to the subject participants of the study. It requires a commitment to ensure the autonomy of research participant. Number one, commitment of the researcher. Okay, to commit in terms of, I already highlighted, where you have to do some homework to know the background of the research participant, to ensure that you know how to approach them, and to give the autonomy to the research participant, where the autonomy may be diminished, to protect people from exploitations of their vulnerability. Okay, some of the research participants are vulnerable. We should not be exploiting them just because you want to get the data. So we have to respect their person. They have their rights as well as research participant. So as a researcher, so he or she have to adhere to this principle, ensuring that people will not be used simply as a mean to achieve research objective. And so we should not take advantage on our research participant just as a mean to achieve our objective. So this is not ethical, and we call it as very unethical. Beneficial number two, requires commitment of the researcher to minimizing the risk. The risk is always there or are always there, but as a researcher, how can you minimize the risk, for example? So need to commit in that aspect, do study, okay, learn from previous study, for example, associate with the research. So this risk associate with the research. Maybe, for example, in your research, so these are the issues. So in the other research, so these are the ethical issues. So we can learn from other or previous researcher, how do they conduct their study and how do they actually deal with the ethical issues. So what are among the ethical principle that they observe before they manage the issue. Okay, these are among the risks include psychological and social risks. Okay, for example, we want to ensure participants, when they participate in the study, they also have to leave the study in the same condition before they participate in the study. So we do not want participants, when they participate in the study or after we interview them, so because of the research question that we ask, it could trigger them psychologically. So this should not happen, for example. Or number two, put them in harm, like legal consequences, or maybe other risks that we can discuss later. Okay, and maximizing the benefit that accrue to research participant, researcher must articulate specific ways this will be achieved. Yeah, next, we have several ethical issues in research. Okay, I just want to share you some of the example that we have. Research involving human subjects, especially in psychology, in sociology, we are dealing with human society. We are observing human interaction, not only how we interact with other human beings, but we also have to look at how we deal with several issues. Okay, must follow certain ethical standard to make sure the participants are not harmed. And so harm here, the risk, okay, that potential risk that we can anticipate before the study will be carried out. Okay, we have the example, the Tuskegee experiment. Okay, so I think this is one of the controversial research where several ethical issue were not properly observed. Okay, let's look at what the Tuskegee experiment is. Okay, so this is basically the summary of the study. So the project or the research was conducted by U.S. Public Health Service, PHS, from 1932 to 1972. So this is the duration of the study. With the intention to examine natural cause of untreated syphilis. So this is the health issue faced by the community in America among the African men during that time. So they want to know what caused the natural cause of untreated syphilis. So what they wanted to do was to test whether syphilis caused cardiovascular damage more often than neurological damage. So they want to see whether suffering or individuals suffering from syphilis, okay, what are the consequences? Number one, cardiovascular or neurological damage, and number two, to determine if the natural cause of syphilis in black men was significantly different from what in white. So they want to compare between black, which is the African American, as well as the white. So this study has recruited 399 infected patients. So they have two groups, okay, the control group and the experimental group. So 399 infected patients and 201 uninfected control patients were recruited for the program. So the subjects, in terms of their background, were all impoverished sharecroppers from Macun country. The original study was scheduled to last only 6 to 9 months. So this is the plan of the study in terms of duration, research duration, 6 to 9 months, which is less than a year. So, but it was later prolonged in 1932 until 1972 due to some other issues. So we can see that these are quite unethical, number one. So several issues already there are, several ethical issues. Okay, the subject who these 399 and 201 patients were not told that they had syphilis. So the infected patients, they actually do not know they have syphilis, or that the disease could be transmitted through sexual intercourse. And they are actually unaware about their health condition. Okay, number one, they do not know they have syphilis, and number two, if they have syphilis, they actually don't have this background knowledge that their suffering could actually, the disease that they suffer from could be transmitted through sexual intercourse, means that they can also affect their wife. So instead of telling the truth to the participant, or they were told by the researcher that they are actually suffered from bad blood. So this is what they were told. Instead of telling the truth, so they were told that, oh, you are only suffering from bad blood. That's why we want to invite you to participate in the study, something like that. So bad blood was actually a local term used to refer to a range of illness. So why they use bad blood? Because bad blood is socially acceptable term in the context of the study. So if they don't tell if they do not use the local term, so they may afraid participant or this 399 or 201 may not want to participate in the study. So because they need people to achieve the objective of the study. Yeah. So by using the term bad blood, so they can recruit sample from the population of the study, which is the African American. So, but after the so treatment was initially part of the study. Okay, so they are going to be treated because this the plan of the study. Yeah? And some patients were administered arsenic, bismuth, and mercury, so as the treatment. But after the original study failed to produce a useful data, so after conducting the study, they found out that they couldn't get the useful data. They obtained the data, but this is not the data that they want. Yeah? So it was decided to follow the subject until their death. It's supposed to be terminated after 9 months, okay? Because originally it was scheduled 6 to 9 months, but after maybe like 9 months, approaching the end of the study, they found out that the data they obtained was useless. So they decided to proceed or to continue the study without informing the participant, perhaps. Okay, so the study decided to follow the subject until their death. Okay, who this subject? Those who were infected with syphilis, the 399. Some of them died throughout the study, and all treatment was halted. So they received the treatment, but later it was halted, and penicillin was denied. So penicillin was available during that time, but they was denied. Why they were denied the right? You know, we are actually putting the subject into harm. We are not protecting the subject, or the researchers are not protecting the subject. Penicillin was available, but they were not being treated with penicillin, especially among the infected men after the drug was available in the mid-1940s. Yes, the 1940s, because the study started 1932. So I mean, after a few years of the conducting the study, so penicillin available, but they were not treated with penicillin. They just the study go as it is, because they want to get the data. Previously, what they obtained was useful data. The data was not useful, sorry, and it was still being held from them 25 years later. Imagine, So in direct violations of government legislation that mandated treatment of venereal disease, it is estimated that more than 100 of the subjects died of tertiary syphilis. So here we have participant, but as a result, it creates a harmful situation. So rights of the participant in terms of respect, beneficial, minimizing the risk are not being observed. So there are several ethical issues in this particular research. Okay, then we also have another issue. Researcher must protect confidential information. I said to you, the data also must be protected. And how we use the data provided by the participant, even this information is not considered to be privileged, legally protected. So some of the information might be against some of the legal rule, legally protected, as in the case between doctor and patient, between attorney and client, and legal pressure is applied to reveal this information. We have an example of study, Brajuha and Hollowell, 1986, in his study, Legal Intrusion and the Politics of Fieldwork, the Impact of Brajuha Case. So what was the study about? A graduate student named Mario Brajuha had been doing participant observation. So he was observing participant as a restaurant waiter on Long Island, New York, when the restaurant burned down. So he was in the restaurant working as a waiter. So when the police suspected arson, so he also conducted the study, observing. That's why he was there. So when the police suspected arson, asked Brajuha to turn over his field note. And so why he has the field note? Because he was doing observation during his work as the restaurant waiter. So when Brajuha refused, he do not want to give the note. He know that he has to protect the rights of the participant. He was treated with imprisonment. He was asked because maybe the field note contained the information that was where the police looking for. So he was treated with imprisonment. So meanwhile, two suspects in the case also demand for his note. So now he has two party demanding for his field note. One is police and another two suspects. For their legal defense, but again, Brajuha refused. So neither nor given to the policeman as well as the suspect. So the controversy ended 2 years later when the suspect died. Okay, during the trial, the suspect died and the prosecutor office abandoned its effort to obtain the notes. Okay, so this was putting the researcher under pressure. Okay, and the researcher also is observing several ethical issues to protect the rights of the participant. Okay, so the researcher also must acknowledge not only that, we also have to look into research collaboration, acknowledgement of research collaboration and assistance they receive from others. What are the assistance? And disclose all sources of financial support. Other ethical issues like receiving consent from the participant means that they actually want to participate in the study. In addition to voluntary participation, we also have to look at informed consent. They are being informed about the study and they give consent to participate in the study. Now, before a research can begin, a researcher can begin obtaining the data. The subjects of the research must normally sign an informed consent form. From this form summarizes the aims of the study. So they are in the know what the study is all about and the possible risk of being the subject. So they are being informed before they actually participate. That's why we have the term informed, and then they give consent. They want to participate in the study. Okay, so this is example that I want to share with you from an article published in a journal. Normally they will some of the journal article will require the author to disclose the information. For example, here we have consent for publication. The people interviewed were informed about the study's objective. Informed, and the eventual publications of the information gathered. So participants were not only informed about the objective of the study, but they were also informed that data from the study will also be published. So in this article, eventual publication of the information gathered, and they were assured that the informant identities would remain undisclosed or anonymous. Okay, and then ethical approval must also be obtained and consent to participate. So 2, ethical approval. So all the procedures of the research has been approved by the committee, and then consent to participate in the study. And the author were granted permission. So not only to, the author not only proposed this is the research that he or she wants to study or to conduct, but obtain permission from the committee, ethics committee, to proceed with the study. So for example, I mentioned here National Commission for Science, Technology and Innovation in Kenya, local authorities and the people interviewed to carry out the research for study. This is as per the ethical consideration of research and the Kenyan government research policy. So this they have already they observed. Okay, so then in the publisher note, they also acknowledge the funding. So who fund the research? Is talk about the financial support by a sustainable approach to livelihood improvement project. This is a joint collaboration project of Moi University Kenya, Southeastern Kenya University, and a university from Amsterdam that is being implemented in Kenya. So this financial support proved fundamental to the design of the study, the collection and analysis of the data, and the writing of the manuscript. So how the fund or the research grant are being utilized. Okay, so this is on the issue. Then we also have how are research subjects protected. Okay, and number 1, we also have a code of ethics, basic standards that sociology must follow in conducting research. We have American Sociological Association must endeavor maintain objectivity and integrity. So maintaining good relationship with other human beings, so we have to be objective, and integrity in their research by disclosing the research info, including all possible interpretations of the data. So they have to know basically what is going on. Even those interpretations that do not support their own point of view. Like what we have in the Tuskegee experiment. So the data does not what they want. So but here, if something that we receive or the data that we obtain is not as what we want, we should not manipulate the data. So we have to present as is. The researcher must safeguard the participant right to privacy. So they have the privacy, dignity while protecting them from harm. Not only protect them from all the possible harm, but we also have to protect their rights to privacy, anonymity, do not disclose disclose their information. Researcher must protect confidential information provided by participant, like what in the case of Brajuha, even when this information is not considered to be privileged. Okay, collaboration, okay, I mentioned already. Okay, and then we also have potential ethical decision-making issues and dilemmas. So as student, so maybe we also have several dilemma, or student have several dilemma. How, as the supervisor or as a lecturer, a researcher, how do we help the student to deal with some of the issue? Okay, for example, ethical issues students researchers confront. Okay, these are common issue or among the most common issue confronted by the student researcher. Okay, for example, kita tengok students begin a research project as a mean of exploring or solving topic. And they want to explore the topic or they want to solve topic that they are personally concerned. Means that they are being influenced by several personal factors. Supposedly, it have to be objective. So here are some personal aspect in which research should be very objective to the objectivity to be objective. Concern about which use of research as a therapeutic action means that we are taking advantage on the research itself could influence the outcome of the research. So where we have personal, where we deal or approach the research in more personal way ataupun are not being objective, that it can influence the outcome of the research. We cannot be transparent, or maybe we are being biased in terms of doing analysis or reporting the finding of the study, as well as involvement of the students and of the research. Okay, so student strategy. So what are among the strategy that can be used by students for empowering ethical decision making? So we have to make decision. Okay, student might first attempt a small pilot study to judge how they will react to the larger research project. So instead of approaching the subject, conducting the real research, why not start small by conducting small pilot study? So means that we try first, approach the subject ataupun the participant, and we see how we actually deal with the situation. Can we cope with all the ethical issue that we already take into account before participate in the study? Okay, ethical issues, faculty supervisor conference. Okay, faculty advisor need to gauge student level of engagement. So they need to understand to what extent the student engage with the subject, or attachment to the topic. So how attached the student researcher to the topic, because it initially started with the personal issue. So how attached, the level of engagement, and number two, attachment with the topic. If they are too attached, so they might be dragged away from the objectivity, might as well advise them not to continue with the topic. So, and locate possible problem issues. Okay, faculty strategy for empowering ethical student decision making. So what are the role that we can do as a faculty members? Faculty advisor should have an extended conversation. So maybe some discussion with the student prior to the beginning of the research, as an experience or with the experience that the researcher or faculty have. So he or she can call the student, discuss, and give some examples so that they are aware, or maybe they are not aware. That's why they are proposing the topic. So because they don't have experience, so as a researcher that have certain kind of experience, we may advise or give suggestion. Check out with them throughout the project duration. Supervisor check out from time to time whether they are doing it right or not. So we have to start it right from the beginning, because it's very difficult to undo it later. Faculty advisor should be able to advise students if the project does not appear to be working. So if it doesn't work as what they want, advise what we are supposed to do. Okay, so we should anticipate this happen, and we are ready with some of the practical solution. Not only solution, but what are among the practical solution that we can advise for students by observing the code of ethics. Okay, then number two issue, sample issue. Student approve sample collections and interviewing without a good background of safety precaution in research. So they have a good sample, but in terms of how they approach the sample, observing their right as a researcher as well as rights of the participant also need to be observed. So now what should be done? Student must remain aware of personal safety in research. Not about enthusiastic to get the data, okay? Too excited to get the data, too excited to interview. Okay, so until we forgot about our own safety as a researcher. And harm is not only for the research participant, but for the researcher as well, so that might not be subject to any legal consequences as well. Yeah? There is careful about what research subject they choose and where they are interviewed. Okay, so research location, premise are also important. Okay, faculty advisor need to provide with student with an overview of safety practices. Okay, so there are lots of issues out there. So these are the things that you need to observe, okay, not only to protect your right as a researcher, but the right of the participant. Okay, faculty advisors and students should also discuss safety in supervisory meeting. Okay, from time to time, always check with the student in terms of how they deal with okay, informants, as well as how do they meet them, where they actually conduct the study in terms of observing the issues of safety. Yeah? Faculty advisors should encourage students to check in before and after they go out on the interview assignment. So you are aware that students is going to conduct an interview, where they are going to conduct the interview. So you know they check in and check out. Always check on them. And then students seek to use family and friends. We also have issues using acquaintances like families, friends for research purposes and run into issues of confidentiality. This is quite common. Sometimes have problem, or researcher have problem with when to approach the subject. Okay, they do not know who to be included in the study, or they don't have a good contact with other people. They do not know how to actually do the selections of samples. So take a very easy step by approaching family members and friends. Yeah? So our issue that we need to observe is confidentiality. Okay? So students should consider whether they will be able to honor ethical rules governing confidentiality. So how we want to observe with the issues of confidentiality, yeah? Because we are actually exposing some data of our family member or maybe our friends. How do we keep the information as confidential? And number two, we also want to protect them. So in terms of anonymity, we are not observing because we know the subject already. They are our friends and they are our family members. Even we may unconsciously share the information towards others. Yeah? So this is also violating the rights and respect towards our research participant. Students should also gauge their own level of ability to conduct private research. And so student also should ask himself or herself, okay, to what level you are able to conduct private research. Okay, you keep the information to yourself. You should understand yourself as well. Yeah, because at the end of the day, okay, we are doing good deeds. Number one, we also want to maintain our good relationship with other human beings. Okay, hamdun minallah as well as hamdun minannas. Okay, faculty advisors need to inform students of confidentiality and privacy guidelines. If they are not in the know, they are not aware, they do not have good background knowledge about privacy and confidentiality. So as a faculty members, as a supervisor, so the person must advise, always give advice. Okay, so this is how we actually create an awareness as well as disseminate knowledge about ethical issue. So faculty advisors and students need to have a meeting about ethical guideline, both university and IRB guideline. Okay, sometimes guidelines might differ from the university guideline. I mean, issues are similar. Okay, when I talk about differences here, issues in terms of research code of conduct are similar. Maybe there are some additional information that we need to observe, and IRB guideline. Faculty advisors should also advise students if they think the student will be unable to follow through with this ethical guideline. Sometimes we know that students have their own character, yeah, because akhlak, okay, the word character here. So we know that these are students' character. So maybe they might not be able to observe this ethical conduct. We should advise them. Okay, these are things that you are going to face. Okay, are you able to deal with the situation? Okay, if you don't have that, might as well before we collect the data, okay, we still have time to amend some of the procedure, okay, some of the strategies that we think that appropriate or socially acceptable. Okay, there are several other aspects that we have to look at. I think that's all from me. Thank you very much for listening. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Doctor, for your great sharing today. Doctor, we have open one or two Q&A for you. All the participants, if you have any question, you can raise your hand or you can write in the chat box.
Okay, yes, we have question.
The from Nawawi, the question IRB. What is IRB, Doctor?
Research board. Yeah, the institutional research board means that the ethical research board means that there is the organization that deal with this ethical application and provide approval. Institutional research board.
Okay, the all participant, if you have question, please raise up your hand. Okay, I think there is no question, Doctor.
Alhamdulillah. Okay.
Thank you very much, Doctor, for your great sharing today.
Alhamdulillah.
Inshallah, see you next time.
Okay. Thank you.
Inshallah. Thank you very much.
Okay. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi taala wabarakatuh.